Hallmarkies podcast, and we are here for When Calls the Hallmarkies, and we are talking about the latest episode of When Calls the Heart, called Heart of the Matter. This is episode 7, season 5, and I'm Rachel, and Ruth is here with me.
Hello, nice to be here.
Yeah, and we are here to talk about this fun episode. Amber is not here for this episode, but I'm sure that she would be very excited about it because, especially it is. I don't know if you feel the same, but I felt like this was like Opal's shining hour. We're going to talk a lot about Opal, but
oh yeah, Opal. Well, Opal and really a lot of the kids, and
yeah.
I mean there were some fantastic moments for Opal. Yeah. And highlighted several of the kids, which I think was great.
Agreed. This was a really pretty fun one. Mm-hmm. So it starts out with Elizabeth writing.
Yeah, right.
And Amber and I have talked about this in the past. We're not that big a fan of this story structure that they sometimes do. I have Elizabeth like wanting to be a writer and like writing. I don't know. It just feels like this. It just feels like this way to kind of throw an exposition and I don't know, but she tells us that they had this great honeymoon and now he's staying wherever they were and she's back and so there you go. I guess they're not going to show us any of the honeymoon because it's Hallmark Channel.
I know I will admit it would have been nice to have had a few, like even a montage, like a honeymoon montage would have been kind of cool. Not that we've had to see, I don't mean
right.
You have to see anything risque. It's not even what I'm meaning. Just would have been nice to have seen that they were enjoying their time and but I know that's for whatever reason they chose to do it this way. Personally, I don't mind the writing thing, but then but maybe that's because I'm a fan of the original series.
Okay.
And
they did that.
And so because of that, because of actually reading the books, and I know that the show completely goes a different direction than those original books.
Okay.
But for me, there's still it's kind of like they're still tying it back in to
the books.
Even the original movie premiere that they that when they first did it and they had the movie, the writing aspect really seemed to make sense. So it's one tie-in that's still kind of left there. And I'm glad. I don't think they overuse it, in my opinion. That they just do it kind of once in a while, and I think it'd be really cool if they were able to, if she were able to actually like see about submitting things for writing, and really, I think that might be kind of interesting now that she's married. Maybe next season maybe they'll explore that, but that's just my opinion.
And that would be interesting. I would be okay with that. Just anything to kind of flesh out her character a little bit more, make her a little more interesting. I'm a fan of. But it was pretty hilarious. So evidently Florence has been subbing in for her. She gets off the stagecoach or whatever. And she's like, thank you so much for coming back. Oh, welcome back.
Oh, yeah.
So things have been rough for poor Florence.
Yes, I can relate to that. Being a substitute teacher, I can relate to that. Now, I never had the opportunity really to go and like thank the regular teacher for coming back. That wasn't something I got to do, but there would have been. I can think of some jobs I've had, even some long-term jobs I've had, where I would have loved to have said, thank you so much for coming back. This was not an easy job.
Right. Have you ever had like a longer term one that you did for
I had one that lasted 3 months.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's
and
a long time.
It wasn't supposed to. It kept getting there because it was what happened was the lady had a knee replacement, and then she had to have she had to have both her knees replaced or something like that, and then she got an infection in one of them, and then the infection went to the other one, and so she was off a lot longer than I signed up for. And that was, I could look back on it now and say I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But going through it was not a fun experience.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time yeah, I spent some time I did some crying and
Yeah.
I did some reaching out to people and what do I do? And so, yeah.
You might occasionally have a nightmare that you have to go back.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a nightmare necessarily about that class, but there were the days it was like, not again.
Yeah.
You know, if is there a way that we can make this a little bit easier? And if somebody and there are those students where it's like, oh, you're leaving and you're not coming back, and you have to pretend like, I'm sorry, I won't see you.
Yeah.
But then you're really like, oh, okay.
Right.
But then there's always going to be another one. But anyway,
Yeah.
I can relate to Florence, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not all that great with kids. I to be honest, my mom had a lot of babies growing up, so I spent a lot of time taking care of kids.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have like a crowd of kids, it's not my strong suit. So I'm trying to teach. I've only had one assignment at church where I had to teach 9-year-olds. I've never been more stressed out in my life than teaching those 9-year-olds church. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a stroke. So I could never do what Elizabeth does here. So that's for sure. But so anyway, so we have the bank is going to be reopening. There's this investor, Joshua Baxter, and like, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to like investing, but I don't really understand. Like, I've never heard of anybody investing in a town before, first of all. And so is he like, I mean, he's investing in the bank, I guess. And the only time I've ever, like, I'm just confused about how an investor would expect to receive any income off of their investment in this bank in this town, especially when it's just gone under. How, like, the only way I can know how to look at it is, seriously, it sounds silly, but it's a wonderful life. Like, you have you can either invest like George Bailey invests, which is of course the good way, but doesn't make him any money. So why would that be attractive to an investor? Or you can invest like Potter's like Potter in It's a Wonderful Life and make a ton of money off of people's hardship.
Right.
But I don't know. I just find this whole thing very confusing.
And I'm not really the one to ask. I'm not an investor either, but I think that probably it's all about timing. You know, if you're doing it the right way, it's going to pay off hopefully in the long term. In the long term, hopefully you'll see a return. You're not going to receive return
for a long time.
For it could be for several years, but also realizing that this town has the potential with the railroad coming through the town. That is my understanding, is that if people invested in the railroad or invested in town, you know, they would come to those towns where the railroad passed, because that was your best bet to have any business, to that's where everybody wanted to be, because it was more accessible. So I think it's probably hard to put ourselves into that time period as well to see what the potential investments would be. But if you're going to do it the right way, you're going to have to wait a long time. It's going to be, I think it's probably the same kind of thing if you invest in the stock market. If you invest in a company that seems like it's going to take off, like all of a sudden it takes off and you think and you invested it but it's like a fly-by-night company, you're going to lose everything.
Yeah.
But if you're a long-term investor, you know that when you put your money in the stock market and you're investing in stocks, you're keeping it in there for 20, 30 years. Because you realize that there's going to be ups and downs, but in the end, hopefully, if you've invested well, there's going to be a return. I think I could be wrong, but that's at least my understanding of it.
Yeah. So I think this we can kind of, for the sake of this podcast, since we're both very far from experts,
Right.
We can just say that this Joshua Baxter guy is like Potter.
Yep, definitely.
Can we say that? And
Yep.
he's gonna extort all of the like. I don't think anything that he's doing is necessarily illegal.
No,
it sounds like. But he is just gonna do what Potter did and make things, charge really high interest rates and things like that.
Right.
And so they're very suspect of him. Abigail gets those bad vibes off of him. And and then we go back to the schoolhouse, and this is another this episode in Opal. And she says, "I missed you, Miss Thatcher." And then she's like, "I mean, Mrs. Thornton."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
that was pretty cute. That was pretty adorable.
Yeah.
And and then we have AJ Foster back. What do you think about that? Are you excited?
Honestly, I like her, but then again, I like Josie Bissett and Jack Wagner together. I didn't watch them when they were back in the day. I didn't watch that, but I've enjoyed seeing them together, and I think it brings out a different side of Bill's character when you have AJ there. It's like all of a sudden he's attracted to her, but he knows he shouldn't be because she's an outlaw. and so he's conflicted and is having a hard time, because really if things were different, he would be romancing her like nobody's business.
I prefer her here more than in the Wedding March movies. I'm not a big fan of those, and especially this last one, I felt like she was just so passive. She just had no like personality, in my opinion. So I much prefer here that she's funny. She's definitely having a good time with the role. And she's turned herself in, because we both know that kiss meant something.
Yes.
And so Bill is very like stick in the mud, as he usually is. And he's pretending like it didn't mean anything. So that was fun, and we kind of flip back and forth between this Bill and AJ subplot, and then what happens with the kids. So find out that the kids want to learn more about this investor and what it means to they're as ill-informed as we probably are.
Right, probably.
We need to follow a businessman around town for the day.
Right, that's probably true.
But anyway, and so what Elizabeth does is she writes down all of the townspeople on the board, and she assigns a kid for each townsperson. And we have Cody with Mr. Coulter over the lumberyard. We have Emily at Dottie's dress shop. We have Robert with Dr. Carson. Opal at the mercantile, because she thinks she's going to eat lots of sweets. And then Hattie at the ice cream shop. Which, where's this mysterious ice cream shop?
I would like to know that too. I'm thinking we never got to see Hattie at the ice cream shop. I mean, I think we really missed out on something that could have been very, because wasn't it something about Elizabeth saying that she was really smart for going to the ice cream shop?
Because Opal's like, oh, I should have gone to the ice cream shop.
Yeah, right. I know, something like that.
But I mean, maybe that's where all the people that lead the show, like they're all hanging out. I don't
know. That's bad. I'm not sure. I did not even know there was an ice cream shop in Hope Valley.
Yeah, I had no idea either.
I would like to know about that. I'm not sure. Now this is just my guess. I don't know if this is true. So it's like, don't quote me. But more than likely, it wouldn't have surprised me for there to have been more to that story, shall I say. Maybe because of time, they had to cut some, because oftentimes, as we know in a show, they will have a lot of extra footage. If it's a 40 some minute show, they're going to film close to an hour's worth, and then they have to go back and do the editing. So it's kind of a shame, but maybe they plan on doing something with it, but then they didn't want to completely cut her out of the episode. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
That's
maybe it's like the Hope Valley version of like a speakeasy, you know? Like, everybody hide all the ice cream.
I don't know.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, okay. So, yeah, then we get more of Abigail.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ says a single woman needs to develop each of her senses, and so she recognizes Baxter, but she needs to like see him, and so then they go through this whole thing where they dress AJ up in a dress. And Bill's like, hot mama. Like, he's really impressed. And so they go over to the pub or tavern, whatever they call it.
Right.
And he's there eating, and so she proceeds while Bill is watching to flirt big time.
Oh yeah.
With him, and that was pretty funny. I enjoyed that.
It was, yeah.
And Bill's just kind of like befuddled, and you do see Gowan meet with AJ and Bill, and he's basically like, "What's up with this? Why are you free?"
Well.
And she's like, why are you free? But he's like, oh, I did my time. So I thought he had a valid point there.
Yeah. It's kind of, I'm sure it was hard. I mean, you know, trying to think of it from her perspective, I'm sure it was hard to see here was someone who's done probably even worse things than she's done. I mean, I'm not sure of everything she's done. I sometimes, I don't remember it. I don't know of all of her crimes, shall I say.
Mm-hmm.
But now she sees him walking free, and, you know, how's that?
But it is true. He faced a judge and jury. He served his time. She hasn't. So I think, it's totally valid of him to be like, well, what the heck? What the heck, Bill? Yeah. So anyway, that was interesting. And then we also have Gowan has an investor as well, which was really funny because we talked about yesterday on the podcast, because it was the same actress who played the investor in The Sweetest Heart.
Yep. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, she's gonna get a typecast real quick as like female investor lady.
Right. Well, I have a feeling she probably doesn't mind. She seems to play the part well. And especially since this is a period piece, and then you have Sweetest Heart is modern, and she's able to do both. So
she does both. She's just an investor lady in any era. Right. You should try to interview. She seems really fun. I don't know. I just have good vibes about her.
Right. I know. I actually have thought about that. Yeah. I haven't gotten there yet, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's this lady that Gowan knows, and he's kind of annoyed at first because he's like, I got this investor, and now the bank's got an investor. Why didn't you tell me about that? And she's like, what are you guys doing? Why do you have two people investing? So there's all kinds of drama going on. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Elizabeth knows this woman.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth just can't handle people being unhappy. She wants to fix everyone's problems.
Yeah.
And
how true.
Yeah, she finds out that that Mrs. Preston, this lady's name, that she is estranged from her son, who Elizabeth also knew.
Yeah.
And so Elizabeth is very upset about this.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I thought it was. I hope that there's a little more to the story, because I'm sure we'll see the investor lady, next time at some point.
So
I would say.
Yeah.
Because and so I think that it's interesting. I think that it's part of who Elizabeth is. she does like to swoop in and she's, in fact, we know from experience, she's often more interested in solving everybody else's problems rather than her own problems.
Yeah.
That's and there are a lot of people in the world like that. It's often easier to solve someone else's problems than to look at yourself and realize that you've got a set of problems you have to solve.
It's very true. I think most of us do that to a certain extent, but then there are definitely those people that it just drives them crazy. Like they just can't, and you're like, sorry, this is just the way our relationship is. And they really they just can't let it go. Right. And that's kind of Elizabeth. Yeah. But it's all from a good place. Like it's from a sweet place. And I think Mrs. Preston realizes that. Yeah. But
I think so too. Yeah.
More mature than Elizabeth. But anyway, and so it's really cute because Florence takes her all, and the ladies take her all around town. He's one of the girls.
Yeah, true.
It's pretty fun. I was like, I want a tour like that of Hope Valley.
Right. Yeah. Well, you go to HFR and you'll get a tour very similar. I mean, although it's not with the ladies, it is with either a director or a writer in the show, and it is really cool. It does. Cool. It does change your not your perception, but it makes, when you see those scenes in the show, it's like, oh, I was actually there, and oh, that's right. And then you remember little things that they've told you about. It's it's really cool. So yeah,
I bet Florence showed her the secret ice cream shop.
Oh, you're probably right. Definitely.
So anyway, so the various kids, let's kind of go over their situations. So the first one is Emily with Rosemary at the dress shop.
Yes.
And this was so hilarious.
It was.
She's just like a mini Rosemary. It was so cute.
Yes. It was absolutely darling. Oh my goodness.
And so Rosemary's like, here's this white scarf. I want you to put together an outfit based on this white scarf. And she puts together stripes, and I can't remember. It was just
it's like plaid.
Yeah, plaid and stripes.
Yeah, it's like what?
I mean, it could be kind of hipster. I felt like. I could see.
Yeah, it could work. That's the thing.
Mixing patterns.
Emily's ahead of her time, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely, because that would be. I was looking at that and thinking, well, that's what everybody wears now.
I fit right in downtown Portland.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really sweet, and she's just kind of like, Emily's just kind of like, I like it, and Rosemary's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
She's like, there are certain rules. I defy the rules. So that was very fun.
Yes, that was.
And then we have Cody with Lee. Yeah. With Leland, and that was so cute.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Cody just loves Leland so much. Of course, who wouldn't? But he's just following him all around. He wants to see him do his books and his ledgers, and thinks he's so interesting. Yes. And wants to stay there all night.
Yeah. Right.
It was really, really sweet.
Right. Well, after all, though, Lee had the right idea. Let's go have lunch. Well, of course, yeah. I mean, hey, Lee's got to have the best lunch. It's going to be the best.
That's true.
The best time of the day, yeah.
I remember loving helping my dad. And, it was probably super boring, making copies and stuff.
Right.
When I was little. Uh-huh. But I remember just thinking anything that I could do to be more independent as a kid. I mean, huge shocker right there. But I was a very independent kid, and anything my parents could do to get me more independence was a good thing. Right. And I remember going with him because my dad used to set up these computer labs. It was super boring, but I loved going with him, and it just made you feel special because there were a lot of strong personalities in my family, and I have a very strong personality, and there's a number of us kids, and so when you get that special time, it's just really fun. And I mean, I can only imagine that would be even more so if you didn't have a father in your house, spending time with a man, because I mean, people try to make it seem like it doesn't matter. There's no difference between men and women, but that's not true. Like boys like need the influence of whoever it is. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be their dad per se, but they need that influence in their life.
Well, and since Pastor Frank is gone, and that's who he would have been. He was spending a lot of time with Pastor Frank, and now he's gone. So I was like, okay, I got to find somebody, and you know, at least you know, Lee's a good choice. Definitely a good choice. And I was thinking, great training for when Lee and Rosemary have kids. You know, I say when they have kids, because you know, I'm expecting that for next season at least, if not sooner.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was very, very, very cute. You had your like mini Lee, and the next day at class, Cody isn't there because he is over at Leland's. And I personally have very unorthodox views on education. So my immediate reaction was, let him stay there.
I know.
Because I'm a big homeschooler and believer in things like that. So it's different. Yeah. But anyway, so he has to go back to school, and it's very, very sweet and very cute. Yes, and
it was. Yeah.
And then later on, we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but later on in the episode, Leland comes by and asks Cody if he wants to play catch. Which was so cute.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was sweet.
So there you go. That was the Cody arc, and that was really fun. Yeah, and it was nice to have an episode where the kids weren't fighting. Because
true. They weren't fighting. They weren't getting in trouble.
Burning down the school.
No, right. They weren't bullying anybody. There was no little mean girl.
Anna wasn't there.
Maybe she was sick that day. Who knows?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe she got assigned like the I don't know, some unpleasant job. People was at the Mercantile, and it was so cute. Oh my gosh, I just died when
my goodness.
She eats the pickled egg, which I've never eaten have you ever had a pickled egg?
No, I haven't.
I never have either. It always seemed like it would be really gross, but I don't know, maybe it just tastes like an egg. I have no idea.
I don't know either. I really don't know.
Yeah, because she popped it in there, and it was very cute. And and so basically, like, she is like Augustus Gloop and Willy Wonka. She's just like so excited.
I know, she was. Oh my goodness, yes.
And you see her at the end of the episode, and Elizabeth comes in, and she has chocolate all over her face. She has this giant chocolate bar that's practically her head, and she's just so happy and having a great life.
Right.
Didn't
she ask? Like, didn't she come out and ask, "May I help you?" or something? And isn't that what she said?
I can't remember, because she was like sitting on the ground, so Elizabeth had to kind of look over. And she sees a
I know. So it's like something like that. It's like she was trying to do her job, but she had chocolate all over.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was so cute. You could tell Aaron Krakow like dying. I wonder how many times they did that take. She just had to have been just laughing.
Oh yeah.
It was so cute.
Yeah. Definitely.
So then the last kid that we had was Robert.
Yes.
And he chooses to go with Carson. And he thinks it's going to be super exciting being with a doctor.
Oh, yes.
And it's super boring. And they have nobody coming in.
Right.
Until you finally have, Jesse coming in. And that was like an insane splinter.
I know.
Like, I was like, holy cow, you're going to get tetanus and die.
I know.
Forget Jesse, he's a goner. It was a huge splinter. Like, that wasn't even, I don't even know if I'd call that a splinter. It was like a shard of wood.
Something like that, yeah.
It was huge. And anyway, so he has this, and Robert sees this, and
Yes.
he just completely passes out, which was
Yes.
so funny because not only because he was hilarious when he fainted, but because you and we all know, we've talked to Andrew Brooks, and we know.
I know.
And I'm surprised
because ironic. Yes.
Yeah, because if people haven't listened to our interviews with or read our interviews with Andrea Brooks, she faints.
Yeah.
In medical environments,
right.
And so it's been challenging her. And I'm surprised she didn't have do like people have like sympathy pukers. I'm surprised she didn't just like pass out along with Robert.
I know.
Seeing that splinter. Woo!
Right. Yeah, I know.
That was pretty funny.
Yes.
I wish I could have talked to Andrea. I tweeted at her. I was like, that must have been hilarious.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well, I mean, I know that Andrea said that playing Faith has made her able to deal with those situations. Because she said when she first, the first season she was on, she did have a point where she couldn't do something and somebody else had to do it for her because she couldn't handle it.
Have you ever fainted in your life?
Me, I have honestly, actually, I guess I have when I was giving birth.
Oh my gosh. Wow. You passed out, huh?
Where I did pass out. I don't know if I don't remember. I blacked out. So I don't even.
Wow.
I do remember that in the midst of labor. It wasn't for very long.
Yeah.
But it was because of my equilibrium was off or whatever the case was.
Wow.
It was, So, I mean, it was fine because I had a home birth. It was fine. My midwife was there with me. Everything was fine. But I do remember there was it wasn't very long. But other than that, no, I have actually not passed out. I've gotten queasy.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've thrown up when somebody else throws up, or I mean, I would get kind of grossed out, but I didn't really ever have that problem.
Well, I've shared this once before on the podcast, but I have fainted one time in my life, and it's when I was assigned to pick up my sister after she got her wisdom teeth taken out. And there was a strong smell in there, and I go in and get her, and she was very like puffy, and just I have a very soft spot with my sister. Yeah. And I was going out to get the car, and I passed out. And it was funny because like everybody's like worried about me. And she's like, I know they have my teeth out.
Oh my goodness.
And so we had to call my cousin to have her come and get us.
Oh wow.
Which was pretty funny. That's the only time I've ever fainted, was seeing my sister like that. So I would not be a good person to like, I don't know, like be in an operating room or like anything like that. I'd be the wrong person to ask, I think.
Right.
But anyway, that was my only time. Yeah. But poor Robert.
Yeah, I know.
And he does learn a little bit of a lesson about the charges and how it works and stuff like that.
Yes.
And we get some nice moments with Faith and Carson working together.
Right.
And it looks like next week gonna be big.
Right.
For the two of them.
Right. I thought it was great. Robert wanting to be a doctor, and then of course being worried, talking to Carson, saying, I don't know if I could be a doctor now. And then Carson was really open and said, well, this is what happened when I was first doing it and all that. And it was nice to have that moment where Carson's really opening up and sharing something and encouraging Robert and really taking that moment. Like you said, it's a teachable moment as far as the money thing goes. I mean, that was because of course Robert couldn't believe, you mean you work for free sometimes? Oh no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, a little capitalist there. So it was really fun. And then we get there's more like flirting to AJ and Baxter.
Yes. Right.
And then she kind of gives her verdict, and she's like, I recognized him right when he came in the door, but I wanted to see the look on your face.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out she knows Baxter from this Texas town.
Mm-hmm.
And that I guess he was like Harold Hill, the Music Man. He like went and he like took everything and then moved on or whatever.
Yep, that's right.
Pretty much. And like I said, you get your ending with Cody and Lee, which was so cute. And and then so then Mrs. Preston, she kind of gives her verdict, and she's like, well, they've made some really bad investments.
Yep.
It's sort of shaky. She's kind of, but she does see the potential. I think like what you were saying about the train and some other stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, there's potential there, and Elizabeth is very upset about Mrs. Preston's son.
Yes. So,
but we find out at the end that Baxter has taken a majority share of the bank.
Yep.
And the sort of ends with the question, what could he do to our town?
Right. Yep. I know. It doesn't bode well for Hope Valley, where it's like, I mean, now I know, of course we know it's Hallmark, and we know that in the end, everything will work out for the best. Cause I think we can rest on that, but as to how it works out, that's always the thing.
Yeah. Abigail and her magic will fix everything. Make everything okay.
Well, you never know. It could, or maybe, who knows? Somehow, I'm sure there'll be a resolution to it.
Something with Mrs. Preston probably will happen. Maybe she'll swoop in and then buy the shares for more, or make some other offer, or it won't.
Maybe some dirt. Maybe they'll find some dirt on the other investor and find it, and that would invalidate him, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I could see Bill or somebody, or Bill and AJ or something like that, finding out that maybe that's not his real name. Right. Maybe that's how they do it. And then like the contract would be void because it's not really him, or maybe he doesn't actually have the money.
Right.
Something like there's some kind of mail and bank fraud going on.
Yeah. Something because I mean, it's the same kind of, it seems like every season,
money laundering. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. Every season you've got somebody who is with bad intentions who wants to take over Hope Valley. And
that's true.
I think every season there's something, and it always works out in the end somehow. Which I think is good. And I don't think that's a spoiler for anyone. I mean, I think that we all know this because this is Hallmark.
Sure.
But I think it's more interesting. Sometimes it's interesting to see the resolutions, because sometimes something will happen. It's like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. It's kind of nice to see have those moments. And
what could happen? I wonder, like Jack could find out something, like wherever he's at.
True.
That
is true.
Yeah, he could find out something and then come and arrest him or whatever, and that would be pretty triumphant to have happen. Maybe it's all hidden in the ice cream parlor.
the hidden ice cream. They need to next season have that ice cream parlor no longer be hidden. That would be a great place to hang out. If there's an ice cream parlor, you could have all the people going over there for dates, and you have some really interesting little stories going on. And
you can have a black and tan with a cherry on. Oh, it'd be delicious.
Oh yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. So maybe they'll go that direction. That would be nice, because it would be nice to know that Hattie just didn't get assigned an ice cream parlor and then it wasn't there. I mean, hopefully they'll bring it back, and we'll see, and maybe they'll even bring Hattie back, and Hattie will say, I learned a lot.
Hattie was like, she thought she was going to the ice cream parlor, but it was really like it's really like the mill or something like that.
Right, I know. Oh, that would be horrible. Oh. Oh my goodness, no, no,
That's
no.
so funny. Yeah, so that was basically the episode. It was really fun because of all of the kids, and
It
and
was.
they were just all so cute.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was nice to not have them arguing. And like I'm not a huge Bill fan, but like this was cute, and I like AJ pretty fun.
Yeah.
And making him squirm.
Yeah, right.
And I liked like little scenes like Flo giving the tour was fun, Florence.
Right.
And I loved Emily and Rosemary and Cody and Leland. And so all that was really fun.
Yeah. That was. It was. And then it makes you think that maybe next season, maybe they'll even have, because some of those kids are getting old enough that they should, in my opinion, I would think that they would be helping out. They're getting old enough that it'd be time for them to start learning a trade or something like that.
Because I've always wondered about one-room schoolhouses. Like, how do they do it? You know, because if you have a kid that's 12 and a kid that's 5, like, how do you teach them in the same class?
It was really hard. I mean, I've read the books that talk about it, and it took a very special kind of teacher. But also, I think we have to remember, back then, there was a lot more respect for the teacher. Not that it was perfect, not that it was ever complete. You know, I know they had their problems.
Yeah.
But there was a degree of respect that was shown to adults that we don't see in today's culture.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess they just would have like math time, and 12-year-old kids are doing 12-year-old math, and the 5-year-old kids are doing 5-year-old math, or something like that. But anyway, so next week it looks like it is going to be a Carson heavy episode with him having to do some kind of brain surgery. It looked like
I know.
Pretty intense. So we will look to see more exciting. So this is like the Hope Valley General Hospital edition.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The Hallmark version, right?
Yeah. Make sure that you check out our interview with Marissa Serafini that we did this week. It was really fun. And I'm excited to announce that we are sponsoring a giveaway of Have Yourself a Merry Little Movie with that is written by Alonso Giralde, who we are interviewing, and the interview will be on next Monday. And so it's a great resource of Christmas movies, and he includes everything. It's feature films, but he's like a man who literally wrote the book on Christmas movies. So we're so excited to talk to him. And if you want to enter the giveaway, it's on our Facebook page, and I'll have a link on this podcast in the description section to enter, and you can enter in like 5 different ways, and it's a really fun book, and it's anybody can enter, whether you're in Canada or wherever, because you can just do an ebook. If you're abroad, you can just do an ebook. So it's really fun. So check that out. Check out our first giveaway, and then this weekend we have Once Upon a Prince. And are you excited about this?
Yeah, I actually am. I have an interview I'm going to post before the movie with the author. And so, I'm excited about it. I mean, I mean, so far I feel like the royal movies have been fairly good, I'd say. I mean, the ones that they at least have done this year, I've been fairly happy with them. I mean,
I really, really liked Royal Hearts. To me, that was a lot better than the other ones.
Yes. I don't think anything quite come up to that standard.
Yeah,
in my
agree.
But I mean, there's been, I think the way I always look at the Hallmark movies too is maybe I'm not going to be in love with every single moment or every single storyline, but usually I find something in it that I can connect to. There's whether I mean, even if I don't like everything else, there might be some part that I like, and at least I know that it's going to pass the time, and I'm gonna it's entertaining, and I don't have to worry about there being anything.
Yeah, there's a few that I struggled.
I know.
But for the most part, 95% of them, I'm totally with you. I completely agree. And if you want to listen to one that I didn't like, check out our podcast from this week where we talked about the non-royal spring fever movies. I wasn't a big fan of Home by Spring. But Amber did enjoy it. I didn't like it. But anyway, so Once Upon a Prince, it looks cute. I'm excited. I had read the book, and so it'll be fun to hear your interview or to read your interview because it's a cute little book. It was a fun book. And so anyway, hopefully that'll be fun. And then we have One Calls the Heart this weekend and Meet the Pete's. And next week on our podcast is when we will talk about the royal movies. So we'll talk about Royal Hearts, Royal Matchmaker, and Once Upon a Prince. So next week on the podcast. So lots of fun stuff coming up. And Ruth, thanks so much for joining us. And where can people find you?
You can find me on my blog, which is mydevotionalthoughts.net. And then you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RuthHill74. And you can find me on Facebook. If you look up My Devotional Thoughts, you can go to my page on Facebook.
Great. Awesome. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and YouTube. And I'm going to be doing a podcast with my friend Conrado this week where we are going to be talking all about Wes Anderson's new animated film, The Isle of Dogs. So,
oh my goodness, that's like the movie my daughter wants to see.
It's not for everybody, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
Well, I know she'll love it. She's been dying to see. I've been hearing about this. So she may. I don't know if it's showing anywhere around us, so she may have to wait.
They're rolling it out very slowly. So if it's not now, it might be in a week or two. They're doing one of those like it started out with only 75 theaters. Now it's like 125 and but I thought it was charming. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely weird and different, so it won't be for everybody. But
anyway. Well, yeah, sounds like right up her alley then, honestly.
So that is something to look forward to on my channel. I'd really love it if you guys go and subscribe and check it out. And make sure you're following us at Hallmarkies Pod on Instagram and on Twitter because we post daily on there. And again, make sure you enter that giveaway. I think you really enjoyed that book. So thanks much. And we will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.